So yes, I'm blowing my nose. Not a big deal, but that's what I've conditioned my body to do to release the demons. And of course, make sure I give birth to myself every single day by releasing those demons from the upper immune system to the lower immune system. And also manage my weight according to the environment, my lifestyle, belief system, everything. Taking everything into account, factoring in everything. All right, and I had to go through a lot of pain and suffering. So I was on a roll this morning and definitely went through a lot of information, even merging newer information, concepts, and revelations, right, that I've discovered through whatever, and putting them together from old concepts to new concepts. I mean, everything that I studied in the Greek mythology and in science and in astrophysics and all that, they all finally can be used as part of new concepts to characterize things a little bit differently. And so I know people like me like to play with words. And relative to your position, you can take any word and phonetically have it match to whatever biases you hold. So the word alien, well, people have used that as saying something is a lion, like something's lying. Which, okay, I guess that's one way to look at the word alien. But I also look at it phonetically as alien. Because when I studied biophysics and I study what causes people pain and suffering, well, obviously, yeah, pregnancy for women, cancer for both men and women, binaries, non-binaries, whatever, disease, which is an alien life force, but not necessarily the same context that you would match that to, like in outer space and Martians and all that. Because things in your body that are too numerous or don't really have a role, they're just taking up space, they could be called alien or alien, because the person is alien from hosting a demon within. Why do I say that in quotes? Because everyone has their perspective of what a demon is. They may look at it biblically. They may look at it biophysically. They may look at it, astrophysically. So, it's all relative to where you want to come from. But when you think about the word alien and alien, then you start seeing connections from one context to another. It's like a footnote. And there's another story embedded with another story. And when you can make these connections with all the different storylines, then you can start developing another storyline. That's the beauty of our world today, is that we came from such entrenched, narrow-minded storylines that we grew up with. And now we're given all the different storylines, and some people have resistance to them. Even the ones that were developed before them that existed, but they didn't know they existed because they were in our homogenized Midwestern towns and they did not want to go and explore diversity. And so when they finally get exposed to diversity on Facebook and the internet, people's heads explode. Their eyes burn out, their retinas burn out of their head because they can't believe what they're reading. They can't believe what they're seeing. And people have an issue with that. And so right now, the internet, social media, everything is a conditioning process for you to realize there's a bigger world than your homogenized thought process. And yeah, there's a lot of different storylines out there that you could adopt or not, or you can reject. Doesn't mean that you force convert anyone or say that it's bad or wrong. You just make sure the law can dictate what is right or wrong. So yeah, I grew up with certain storylines. I had exposure to all different storylines. I even read a lot of books. I was forced to actually read 13 book reports, one summer. My sister was out there. School came easy for her, but when I was forced to write 13 book reports in one summer, I had to stay in my room and read book after book and write about it. Along with writing lines, like I won't buy it again or something, like thousands and thousands of times. But writing book reports was an exercise that my mother gave to me, and it was a gift. Because even though I didn't appreciate it for what it was back then, when my sister was playing in the pool during the summer and eating popsicles, and I'm stuck in my room writing book reports and then coming out onto the deck and saying, okay, here's my book report. And then she's reading it. She's like, okay, well, what's the concept here? What's the plot? What's the main characters? What's the point of the story? She had all these questions. She definitely knew what the fuck she was doing. And so through that exercise of being forced to read 13 books and writing book reports, then I was exposed to different storylines. And then the love for reading, and then also having a voracious appetite for knowledge. So that way I can make the connections. And even though there was no prediction that I was going to develop the Jilly Juice world and develop immortality and all that shit, and there was no prediction that I was going Dr. Phil and go up against the whole system and put out a storyline that everyone's like freaking out on, and she gave me the tools to develop another storyline for the future. I could have been one of those activists that would be like a guru and be like a cult leader, like they already had me pegged in the beginning of the Jilly Juice world. But then I was given another gift, which is called evolution. Just because you got out of one thought process into another one didn't mean that you had to stay into the second thought process that you were exposed to. That just gave you an avenue to evolve. That's why those in the conspiracy world, you got to figure out how to evolve from your conspiracies and from your resistance. What's the next thought process are you going to develop so you can save yourself, as well as give people the option to develop another storyline for themselves? And so simply just adopting another thought process that is so diametrically opposed to what you're raised with was not enough. And that was the thing that I had to figure out and learn, that even though I'm like, oh wow, salt is needed and immune system activation is preferable, so as long as you support it, I had to keep evolving. That's why I've written so many different books that went through an evolution. It went through a lot of fucking evolution and a lot of resistance, a lot of mean people out there and whatever, a lot of attacks. And that's what happens when people evolve, is the people around them don't want them to evolve, don't want them to change. People want to stay stuck in their stories and think that you should stay stuck in their story. And that's not always the case. And so you got to give yourself an opportunity to evolve. Just because, yes, you've discovered something different doesn't mean you stay there and stay stuck in loop. That's why you change out your friends every so often, so you don't get stuck in the loop. But people don't know how to change out their friends. They get stuck with the people around them and they don't know how to evolve. And that's what keeps them in a jail of expectation. Their religion, their politics, their science keeps them jailed. And then all those, of course, the expectations that go along with that. And so I'm just going to go all the way from where I last left off, because I might as well just go through the succession of my thought process. There is an order, a method to my madness. I always pick up where I left off from the last video, unless there's extenuating circumstances. And so my last video was when you think about the alien agenda. So ailing, A-I-L-I-N-G, and you add a W, it's wailing because someone is ailing, and then you have alien. People in poor health are ailing, alien, attacking themselves with DEWs, direct energy weapons, rife machines. Okay, vectors. If you go down my timeline, you can see what vectors are. Things that are forced onto the body to develop a hormonal response on command, and herbs and starvation. Then they attack others who are not alien until they have consumed everything in their own environment. And they relish in other people's suffering regardless of why. And their intention is to destroy. Not only do they believe they should die someday, but they also believe others should die as well. But they don't want to die today. But they believe you should die someday. Those are your friends and family. And they have every intention to take you down through love and hate and intolerance. And they hate for you to change. And they'll ridicule you until you fucking submit to them. Or they will love you to death. And they will also gift you to death. That's the alien agenda. Misery likes company. Misery loves company. What's the tap? Equals love, hate, and biases. This is yet another storyline that someone will take extreme offense to. And it's in plain sight. Just look at your beliefs, look at your behaviors, look at your religions. That's the family. Charles Manson was the proxy to that belief system. Remember the Charles Manson, the Manson family? He was the representation of the future. Sharon Tate was the human sacrifice. She represented the women, the future, and women today. Hot and sexual, having 1 billion kids, and justifying everything to make them look like they are socially acceptable, even if it means that they are raping in their body, mind, and spirit with Botox and surgeries and implants and massive amounts of sexual partners. Yeah, that's the future of women. That's the future and women today. Hollywood is the hologram. Now you know, can you survive this storyline? Or will it be something else you can resist and destroy while you think the system is destroying you? No, you have destroyed yourself, and your intention is to destroy others until you stop destroying yourself. How you treat yourself is how you will treat others. And if you are destroying yourself and you are intolerant to your own immune system, that's how you will treat the world around you. You will cure yourself to death. You will allow a government proxy to cut into you. And you will stay under the influence until you don't exist anymore. And you will expect everyone around you to be on the same wavelength. And you will enslave people and animals until they are not useful anymore. Then they're discarded. And if you don't think of yourself as important or take your life seriously, how could you possibly take any other life seriously? Because you have said through your behaviors and actions and belief systems that you are disposable, which means everything around you is disposable as well. Your children, your family, your pets, everything. The future is sustainable, but you will dispose of yourself, not others. So the system will allow you to dispose of yourself, but you cannot dispose of others against their will. They have to sign on the dotted line, be in a contractual obligation. Then you have to negotiate your survival. That's marriage, that's business relationships, partnerships, all of that. Whew, I'm sweating. It's a little bit hot. Fuck. I should take this off, but... All right, I'm going to take this off. So I'm going to flip it. Hold on. All right. Whew. Okay. All right. So, DEWs, they are direct energy weapons in the hospital or the military. So what are DEWs? They're basically vectors. Scalpels, radiation machines, oncology, Rife machines. Direct energy weapons are things that have an intention to destroy life or freeze it in its place or force the body or something to purge it out. And so, you know, there are people in my world that only read the Bible. They don't even read my information. They only read the Bible. They only read Revelations. But they won't read my information. And I come from science, but if you come from religion, you have blinded yourself to so many different things. But you can't tell religious people this because that's what their religion is. It's only looking at allegory, a very limiting allegory that only offers only one way out, which is death and destruction, called the rapture, whatever. So those who only read the Bible and Revelations and nothing else blinded themselves to 99% of the valuable information out there, and it will be easy for the system to take them out by their own hands. Is that your only allegory? If that is your only allegory and story, the system reinforced your own blindness. You won't consider my info because I'm not government or a religious person or a Hollywood star. I'm nothing to most people out there who have blinded themselves to only read one doctrine and that's it. Sad, sad, sad to me because I value your life, but it's not sad to you. So I get it. Why should I care about you? Well, because we're all connected. That's why I care about strangers, but I won't die for strangers. I won't die for friends. I won't die for family. I won't die for anybody. I'll live for them, but I won't die for anyone. But it's not sad to you. Well, thank you for your service. You're like a serviceman. You're like a military person. You're willing to sacrifice yourself for the good of society. Okay, fine. I'm sorry, the Bible and Revelation is not the only storyline unless you plan to pass away someday. Most do, which is why they only stick to Revelations. Okay, Godspeed. Then there's no reason to resist the government. There's no reason for you to resist what their alleged intentions are. You already told the system you want to die someday, and probably sooner than you expect. That's the irony of resistance. They already believe, the resistors already believe they should die someday. The government is just giving them what they want. But the people are resisting that. But why is that? Because they never understood how programmed they truly were. And I can't change you. You don't even think you can change you. So resistance equals mutually assured destruction. The government will just manipulate the environment, the economics. You will resist the information or symptoms and cure yourself to death, or you'll keep spending money on pleasure and paradise, and you'll say food is too expensive, so you only buy a little bit of food, but you're out there in pleasure and paradise, and you're starving to death because the environment has accelerated. And then claim you never wanted to die, when everything else spoke to the contrary. You were given so much information, and you spat in the face of change and evolution. And then you called me a monster. When you put your friends and family in hospice and starvation, when you give your kids away to the medical system because you can't handle pain and suffering and coughing and sneezing. And so then you condition your kids not to sneeze and cough and blow their nose. You just rely on vacuums to suck all the mucus out of their nose and body, mind, and spirit. So they have no conditioning for release or retention for that matter. Then, of course, those food allergies will be the death of them, because they don't have the proper nourishment to reinforce their vital organs. And so when the climate changes, they don't survive. That's the 10th plague. Food allergies means you are starving, and it's happening now. And you bully those that try to give you new information. You ridicule those who try to give you new information. And now at the 11th hour, maybe you might consider new information. It might be too late for your children, but not for you. It might be too late for you and not for your children. It just depends. Adults have a better chance in adaptation than children do. Children do not have a fully developed immune system, especially with all the food intolerances and all the operations removing their immune system, like their appendix, like their tonsils, like their spleen and gallbladder and whatever else. Gosh, my hair today. We survived those tornadoes. Oh, I was scared shitless yesterday. So I packed all my shit and went down into the basement. Well, actually, I was downstairs in the main room just watching the TV for a minute, but I was watching the lightning that was just like LED lights that were forked across the crazy ass looking clouds. And it was a lot of atmosphere. But it was just a little bit of wind, and it was a little bit of thunder, yeah, and a little bit of rain, and then that was it. It was as if it was meant to go to the north east of us, up to Youngstown and all that. All right, so we survived that, but I'm telling you, it's like we are the new tornado alley at this point right now, as far as Ohio, because we're going to be a new smart city. So the system is kind of cleaning up the areas that have things, and I don't know if people are going to move somewhere. I don't know exactly how that's going to, I don't know. Because people will just rebuild again. They'll get their insurance money, rebuild, unless the system says, okay, well, we can't build here, you move here. I don't know. Or people die from natural causes, right? Because the environment is so accelerated. And I did feel a little bit of heart palpitations for a minute. I took a nap yesterday because that's when the storm was coming through. It was moving in. And so I just ate food, took a nap, woke up great. And that's kind of how I deal with the climate change. Some people will get fast-moving cancers from that. I heard a bunch of sirens, people get into accidents, heart attacks, strokes. And so even though maybe the intention is not so much to clear things out, but that just happens, maybe the intention is heart attacks and strokes from those storms. Who's to say? I'm only speculating. So for clarity purposes, all religions are government regulated. The government gave you your religion. So when you can only listen to your religion, you're basically only listening to the government with no discernment. I just want to make sure I clarify that. Those who think there is a separation between church and state, no, there isn't. Just like the justice system doesn't deliver justice. They just give you closure. Okay? They make you think you're doing something. Let me tell you, whenever I opened up a case against all the different journalists, maybe one I went up against and they never showed up. The other one went up against me. They never showed up. And it was closure. It was closure. It wasn't like justice. Because what does that mean? There's no amount of money and no amount of retribution against someone to deliver the kind of justice. And if death is the only justice, well, not everything deserves a death penalty. And so is money really enough? I mean, that's the thing. If you don't have closure, then you'll think that money or somebody's death or someone's in jail is closure. And that's not really justice. That's just closure. So to be anti-government and highly religious is irony. Oh, really? I'm not trying to be an asshole. At some point, new information must penetrate. Somebody has to be the one to give you new information. Change must start somewhere. And if you can't listen to your government, at least consider one of your peers. If you're told your peers are crap, only listen to government in Hollywood, it won't matter what you do because you can't discern between your peers and the government. It's all or nothing to you. And that's not how life works. Real critical thinking does not throw away the baby with the bathwater. One example around the eclipse. If the government says stay home and stay safe, don't be caught out there, there's a reason why. They know why, but I already knew. But they know how dangerous it is out there. They know why staring at the sun, even with little stupid glasses, is dangerous. If you laugh at government when they warn you about stuff, you set yourself up. If they make recommendations to please get a VACCINE and you don't want to, you made a personal choice, and that's fine. But then turning to holistic remedies makes it even worse. So you might as well have gotten the VACCINE. Because no matter what, your immune system was activated by the environment and you developed an offspring microbe, or you thinned your blood, or you did not allow your blood vessels to be conditioned to push thicker blood because you thinned it, and so you set yourself up for a die suddenly in the future. And those holistic remedies also develop aggressive opposing forces along with your lifestyle and belief system and particle acceleration. You might as well just gotten the VACCINE because you have no discernment between anything anymore and are easily manipulated. Your whole world is synthetic. There's nothing organic about your world. If you don't believe that, you'll fall for every single resistance and manipulation known to mankind. And so, hold on. And so Gen X is the variable. Thanks, Mom, for not following the crowd. Thank you for the freedom. With freedom comes responsibility. Now, I've had issues with trying to figure out my childhood and being raised the way I was raised and whatever, right? But my mother gave me a gift. And finally, 50 years later, I figured that out. But it does take a long time to mature, to realize why you were raised the way you're raised. And even if you didn't have a mother like mine, you still could find a way to make your life better. And that would require not only behavioral changes, but understanding what was going on in the world of your parents. I mean, they're basically teenagers when you think about it, trying to raise a baby with absolutely no training. And bad habits and belief systems were passed down to them, along with abuse and drugs and alcohol and crazy amounts of sex and war and so much stuff. And so then you had to really, I don't say you have to forgive them, but understand what they went through and try to do better, whatever that means. And who knows what that looks like? You only know. Okay? So my mother gave me a gift. She gave me the freedom to develop my own storyline, even not regurgitate someone else's. Thanks, Mom. 50 years later, I understand now. She gave me a gift, allowing me to struggle and save myself, and I did. And she gave me the proper tools. She did not bail me out or catch me all the time from falling. She did not worship me or spoil me. She did not impose her way unless I asked for it. And when I did ask for it, I didn't like what she said, then I had no room to say anything because I called her. I asked her for advice and questions. I didn't like the answer. She's like, well, what the fuck then? And she was right. She was hands off later. And mothers who finally walk away from their adult children might actually save their kids from destruction. When you have to strategize your own survival, that is the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm an adult who is accountable for her own choices. I do not need to run to mommy and daddy every time the wind blows wrong. I can scale down my lifestyle and change when I need to. And when you know you don't have mommy and daddy to bail you out, or friends and family to bail you out, you can only imagine the innovation, strategy, and gift that was given to you. When no one can give you what was missing because of whatever, no one can correct your mistakes and fix the issues in your life, and you have to fix them yourself, that's a gift that keeps on giving. But you see these big families out there, people are like, oh, I need to borrow money. Oh, I need someone to babysit. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And they're always calling somebody in their friends and family network. It takes a village. Yeah, okay. Which is why I am only accountable to my husband and government, and that's it. I negotiate my survival, and we don't have mommy and daddy to bail us out. We're both Gen X. My husband can't go to anyone to bail him out of situations. It's me. We both have to be the ones to fill in the blanks if we need to. I can rely on him to back me up. He can rely on me to back me up, and that's it. And then when we are gone, when one of us is gone, then one of us or both of us have to figure out how to survive on our own. And that's why I'm trying to learn certain things, like where the gas meter is, where this is, where that is, how would I turn off the water? What would I do in this situation? What would I do in that situation? Because if something happens to him, God forbid, I'm not trying to take in a stranger and deal with someone else's bullshit in order for have them to go and fix my shit. I gotta learn it myself or bring in a professional and pay them. And they're bonded and insured and whatever else with best practices. But I'm not trying to now replace my husband if anything happens to him. Hell fucking no, because there's too many questionable variables out there. And I'll tell you, my world is not mainstream. So there's hardly anyone out there that's like me that I could rely on. And I don't want to rely on someone that is questionable and unpredictable with issues I know nothing about. But I at least have 13 years with my husband to kind of know what I'm dealing with and what I can deal with. And so he's relatively predictable when you think about it. But anyone else? So that's why it's important for women to learn how to do shit themselves and use the people around them while they can to learn the world they live in and not use them anymore. Once you learn where the gas meters are, once you learn how to do this, this, and that, or bring in a professional. That's important for women and men. Even men who don't know the finances, or their wife or their girlfriend always did the finances for them. Well, you better learn the finances then. You better learn how to do this and that and whatever else. So it's important for both parties that have division of labor to understand what the other person does. So when something does happen and they have to go and do it on their own, they're not bringing in strangers and then blow up their world. Because right now that's what's going on in some people's worlds, is that someone died and they have to do it on their own. And I'll tell you, it's scary when you're not prepared to be on your own. It's scary for the man. It's scary for the woman. It's scary for even the children when they lose their parents. So that's why it's so important to be so conscious of what it is that you have to do on your own, or else you'll be relying on strangers who might do you harm, who might suck the life out of you. Which is why I'm only accountable to my husband and the government, and that's it. I negotiate my survival, and we don't have mommy and daddy to bail us out. We are Gen X. You might think this is offensive. However, all of us were cultures under tests and experiments. Understand the resources available to you and strategize in survival takes practice, along with pain and suffering and falling down, being alone, taking accountability, and finding workable solutions that is not taxing somebody else. I never want to tax others so much for my own survival. You know how hard it is for me to ask for help from anybody? I don't want to ask for help because then now you are beholden. No one's benevolent. But when people are so ready to help you, they want something in return. And it's not always obvious, but they will keep track of how much they've helped you. And then when the time comes, they will ask for the payback. And that is so true whenever you take anything from anyone. That's why you have to be very careful getting help from people. I learned that in the J world. When people give you stuff, when they do this for you, and then I have to write out certain things and say, well, this is what is in place of this, and this is what we're doing for this. I'll tell you, you have to develop the payback system. And sometimes my information is a payback for whatever was given. And so that's kind of the world that the J world, where we discovered how much people do for others because they expect some major return on that investment. And so that's why I don't want anyone next to me. I don't want to be taking from people or asking for help from anyone. I got to do shit on my own. And that was a learning process the last 7 years, dealing with people and the Jilly Juice world. And so people have this information. They get it basically for free. So you have now something that is a gift that will keep on giving. You've had exposure to me. You've had access to me. I've given you so much of my time to so many different people that this world is the gift that keeps on giving. It pays for anything that you've invested. It literally does. And so from the point forward of when I realized that I can't depend upon people who want so much in return that you can't give, and then it takes you away and from your path. You never want to tax others so much for your own survival. It is a culture. It is a lifestyle. But now we can see what kinds of people are developed from the different child rearing practices out there. We get to see it on Facebook. Those who are innovative had to struggle. Those who are criminals, whining and full of health issues, always had someone to carve out their problems for them. Yes, I had health issues, but I still worked and found a strategy despite them. Even marriage is not always a surefire way to survive unless you both are on the same page, helping each other survive, especially with my information today. So if you are a millennial and you are married to someone and you know you have health issues, scale down your lifestyle, scale down your belief system, figure out what you can live on. And maybe one person works, the other person doesn't, so the other person can stay at home and be sick and take care of what they need to take care of and be sick and release demons and eat food and figure out how to get recalibrated to the new environment and face whatever demons they have to face while the other person is working, and then switch roles down the road if possible. And that does take strategy when you have two people who might have a lot of health issues, because that's a lot to overcome. And I don't know, man, that's the thing. I feel sorry for the new millennials now trying to strategize the climate change, because it's fucking brutal. It's really brutal. But those who are extremely dependent on everyone to give them a remedy, a surgery, or a recommendation for something, someone always gave them a remedy to take away their pain and suffering and lesson. So they never learned a damn thing, and they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, expecting someone to save them. We are in a different world now. So those with health issues need to strategize their survival. And I could not tell you how. I strategized my survival despite my evolution among a society who resists change and evolution. And it was hell. It was pure fucking hell trying to change when many people were laughing at me. And if you want to survive, you will have to go through hell, or you will succumb to whatever it is that is most influential in your life. Sometimes to save yourself, you must stand up to your friends and family. I hope you have what it takes. So why do kids die suddenly? Because they couldn't handle the pain of life and food. They couldn't handle change. You can already see it through child rearing practices, how kids survive or not survive. If the mother is there to feed into the child's every whim, if the father is there to feed into that child's every whim, they will have no impetus to do shit on their own. They don't have to, right? Mommy and daddy are there for them all the time. I mean, all the time. And then their poor wives and husbands have to deal with that bullshit. That's true. You're raising people. That's why you have 50% divorce rate, because we have children raising children. When the system or someone is vacuuming out or carving out their problems, like sucking the mucus out of their nose or carving out issues, they won't have the strength to survive climate change. That's died suddenly. When parents depend so much on their kids to be their best friends as children and adults, they just ruin that person. That person has no ability to struggle on their own, and they will be easily manipulated by somebody because they will have to depend upon someone because they can't stand up by themselves, much less in a relationship. Because even marriage partners have to survive each other, or one will destroy the other one. So even in marriage, you have to give them the choice to destroy themselves, but not you. That's why I give my husband the choice of what he chooses to spend his money on and how hard he must work. Because if you want, I'll tell you, we don't have a lot of expenses when it comes to the necessities. It's the extras is what costs all the money. But he could scale down if he wanted to, but no, he wants the nice things. Okay. But we could survive on barely anything and he doesn't have to work this hard. But again, if you have a lot of wants and needs and friends and family and baubles and toys to maintain, well, that's expensive. That's what people are paying for. And that's what they are sacrificing their lives for, is the friends and the family and the baubles and all the nice things. But I will not die for anyone. I will not die for anyone. I will not enslave anyone. And I will not let anyone enslave me for their addictions and lifestyle and belief system. And so when someone presents an option, right, they offer you, well, you should work 40 hours a week, Jillian, so we can have a big house and all these things and a whole, like trying to copy somebody else's lifestyle. I'm not trying to end up like other people out there. Okay? I'm not going to work for my own destruction. And so that's the thing, that's how you negotiate in a marriage, how to survive, because some people will work for somebody else's lifestyle and say it's their own. But then you see then the power dynamic. One person is being cannibalized to death by that lifestyle, while the other person's like, hey, yeah, I got somebody to work for me and my lifestyle and my addictions and all my baubles. And you have to know what it is that you are worth and what you can do and what you want. And so to justify putting limits on people, you have to get rid of your addictions. You have to get rid of all your wants and needs. You have to almost have absolutely no major social life. And you have to use your brain. Because when it comes down to it, it's about survival. If I've already done the traveling out there, I've already seen so many different lives and different people and different things. I don't need to prove anything as far as diverse experiences. I'm 50 years old. I've lived a pretty diverse life. So I don't have that hankering for traveling and all that stuff, or going to the bars and getting drunk and doing this and that. I don't have a need for that, but people do. And so they have to pay for that. So if I'm not smoking cigarettes, I'm not smoking pot, I'm not getting drunk at the bars, I don't have any major addictions, I don't need to travel so much, I don't need all the different clothes and the gadgets and the jewelry and the new stuff and all that crap, and I'm not looking to shop for all the shit that people do, buying, baubles and pleasure in paradise, then I can afford to have this mentality. But it's those who have addictions, those who have all the things, the pets and the friends and the family, all that, you got to pay for that shit. And why should your partner have to pay for all that unless they're part of it and they agree to it? But I don't ever stop my husband from doing his trips. I don't stop him from buying whatever, as long as he still have food on the table, we can pay our bills. I don't care what the fuck he does. But he chooses to do that. And that's the thing. You have to give people the choice to destroy themselves or not. But you don't actively enslave them and destroy them because you want all of your shit. That's the thing. You got to have limits. You as yourself as a person must have limits. But we see people in relationships enslave each other. And one person feels obligated. Because that's what they thought they signed up for. But remember, you're allowed to evolve and change. But see with people who are newly married, the first 7 years, everything is great. But people do change. Are you allowed to change? Because every 7 years, people change. Or they resist change so much they die suddenly. Because they want to stay with what they married into or what they signed up for initially. But you don't ever see in any kind of marriage contracts that, are you allowed to change? Say for better or for worse. What does the hell does that mean anyways? All right? But I will not die for anyone. I will not die for anyone. I will not enslave anyone. And I will not let anyone enslave me for their addictions and lifestyle and belief system. I will not die for wealth and riches and religion. And if I had kids, I wouldn't die for them. I don't worship anyone. I don't even worship myself. The only time you need friends is when you need someone to take away your pain and suffering and loneliness. Someone to keep you company while you destroy yourself. Someone to bounce ideas off of if they even comprehend your thoughts. Someone to unload all of your problems onto because you can't manage your own problems on your own. You're not learning anything from your friends and family. The reason why they're your friends and family is because you all cycle in the same loop together. And if they change, you would kick them out of the group. But it would naturally happen anyways. You take yourself out of the group. It's the strangers that you resist and you learn from. I learned a lot from my trolls. I seriously learned a lot from my trolls and even from people who supported me. Abso-fucking-lutely. Okay? But even people that supported me are not like related to me. It's like Audrey and John and Kevin and all the different people that used to be around me. I learned a lot from you. And you guys were kind of next to me, but we weren't related. It's when you're related to someone, whether you're husband or wife or sister or brother or mother and father or cousin or someone you used to work with. It's hard to learn from people that of your peers because you don't think of them as anything but someone that's equal to you, and they couldn't possibly have a unique thought in their head, but a stranger might. And so it's the strangers that you resist and you learn from, and you're not even particularly close to them. And you also hate the strangers that you learn from. Absolutely, I hated my fucking trolls, and they hated me, but we learned a lot from each other. But your friends and family don't give you anything more than what you already hold inside. They are your remedies. They are your addictions. They are your security blankets. What happens if they're not around anymore? Could you survive on your own? I bet not. Man, maybe I bet too. With that said, could my husband learn from me? No. I mean, maybe he watches my information. Maybe there's certain things that he's like, okay, but no. He has my books. He hasn't read my books, but he has the book about rapture. He says he'll read the book about the rapture because someone that is religious gave him a book. Fuck, I give you all these books you can read, but he doesn't read my shit, and I understand, that's fine. Okay? But could I learn from my husband? Well, with that said, could my husband learn from me? No. We're too close. No different than you can't have a surgeon operating on their family. Could I learn from my husband? It just depends. But I wouldn't become a Christian for him. I mean, if he shows me where the gas line is and how to turn it off or close it off, okay. Certain things. But as far as trucking, could he train me? Nah, we're too close. But I wouldn't become Christian for him. No different than he would convert to Judaism for me. We couldn't change for each other like that. So when you are related to someone who is innovative in their own right, you'll be the sacrificial lamb because you can't see the forest for the trees. Which means, my information is very credible and very relevant. But to my husband, no, because I'm his wife. I couldn't possibly have anything innovative to say because he's too close to me. Maybe a stranger might, but even then, the people that know me personally probably think I'm crazy. They wouldn't listen to me for damn shit. They would listen to strangers out there. They would listen to some doctor, even their own friends. But they wouldn't really listen to me because I'm not even, I don't even know. Because I'm not really close to really anyone. So I have no idea what people think of me, even in my personal world. I have no idea. I can speculate, but I would never know for sure. And so I wish my husband would understand me and my information, but maybe he's not meant to. So I don't know. Whew, it is hot. Oops. All right. Okay. So, I'm going to go over, Oh, new technology uses lasers to transmit audible messages for specific people, to specific people. So you can only imagine the kind of dreams people have. And yeah, I've had weird dreams. And I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? But, I'm just not going to speculate. I don't want to end up sounding crazy, so I'll just leave that one alone. But yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Oh, it's fucking hot. Here we go. The glare of car lights could be a risk for heart conditions as even more vehicles using dazzling LED beams. And that's also the cloud brightening. That's also the eclipse. That's also everything that was going on right now. I told you harsh light will cause a lot of issues in people, which is why I blacked out the place I live in my house. And I won't look at any eclipse. And it's time to wear sunglasses all the time outdoors, if possible, especially for long periods of time. The soft wattage bulbs are better. LEDs are extremely harsh on the biological immunological system. Your eyes are the gateway to your soul and internal immune system. You can see psychosis in people's eyes. You can see lack of empathy in people's eyes. You can see potential serial killers in some people's eyes. The eyes are the windows to your soul. That's the all-seeing eye. Not only does it surveil you, but you also can blind people through their eyes, obviously. People with heart conditions driving at night must be extremely careful. A sudden flash of LEDs while you're driving will cause temporary blindness and who knows what else. Just think of all the reflective particulates that are also LED influenced, all the water vapor chemical trails. Chemicals aren't poison, however, when coupled with sunlight and energy, they have a phototoxic effect. Blue light, common in LED devices, has a phototoxic effect. This means repeated exposure can make our skin and eyes extremely sensitive to light. The ANSYS report also linked LED lighting to retinal damage. All right. I'm going to turn on the slide. Okay. All right, so Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno was all about your corked up colon and the diseases within. The 9 circles of hell are symptoms of disease. They turn into 4 humors, and then personalities, and then addictions and afflictions, and then predatory behaviors. So the 4 humors, there's phlegmatic. I'm phlegmatic. I blow my nose, I cough, I sneeze, and whatever. Then there's the sanguine. That's the love, and happiness and comedy and stuff. Then there's the melancholic, the depressed people. Then there's the angry, choleric people, the yellow. Okay? And that was a lot of the hormones that get released when you're purging out some of those aggressive behaviors and anger. And so that was also in the beginning of the Jilly Juice, where people were purging out a lot of the angry shit that was in their body. And so when you are afflicted with so many symptoms of disease because you're holding on to so much anger and hurt and love and all this other shit, then you have predatory behaviors. You have limbo. You have greed. You have gluttony. You have heresy. You have lust and treachery and violence and fraud and anger. Even Dante Alighieri knew what afflicted people. Dante Alighieri, who is he? An Italian poet. He was born in 1265, Florence, Italy. Died September 14, 1321, age 56. So he surpassed the Hayflick limit for at least 4 years. And then he passed away from some kind of hell, a quartan fever, which is something to do with, what is it? Malaria. And so cause of death, quartan fever. He's from Ravenna, Italy, influenced by Virgil, Aristotle, Homer, Thomas Aquinas, Ptolemy, Ovid, Lucius, Aeneas, Seneca, and more. Spouse, Gemma di Manetto Donati. And full name is Dante degli Alighieri. Poems is Dante's Inferno, Divine Comedy, Purgatorio, Paradiso, La Vita Nuova. Okay, so there's a quartan fever. Anyways, remember, all the cures turn into another version of that disease. Okay? Diseases never disappear. They just mutate. Oh, this is bright. Hold on. I got to figure out some lighting. Because sometimes it's so bright and sometimes it's not. Okay? And so, if you have issues... Okay. Remember, all cures turn into another version of that disease. Diseases never disappear. They just mutate. Then you get offspring that represent that specific disease, but people wouldn't consider themselves diseases unless they antagonize somebody else. So when you bully somebody, when you nag at somebody, when you cross boundaries, or when you resist somebody, when you troll somebody, you become the disease to somebody else unless they find a way to block you. And so we have a lot of people that say that, oh, Jillian, you're such a monster, you're such a this, but they are a disease to me because they intend to antagonize. So they become the disease that they're actually against. Funny how that happens, huh? If you have issues in your colon and intestines and you can't poop, and over-the-counter medication is not working, when you're corked up like this, like what? When someone's constipated, you're ripe for a heart attack. The signs are there when someone is developing a path for heart attack or stroke or heart failure. Okay, thanks, Audrey. Small, dimmable lamps, overhead light is harsh. Yeah, you're right. You're right. When you're corked up like this, you're ripe for a heart attack. The signs are there when someone is developing a path for a heart attack or a stroke. I probably saved that woman's life on Dr. Phil because she survived a heart attack that she may have died from if she didn't preempt it before it became so bad. When you wait for Mother Nature to do something, you might not survive, especially in this environment. Okay? And so I copied and pasted something, but let me just give you a shorter background. So that copy and paste that I did, that was in quotes, this is from a Diet Suddenly group. Constipation are indicators of potential future heart attacks and strokes. You don't want to be constipated. You don't want to be malnourished. And you need milk and cheese and eggs and cabbage. So that group blames everyone's issues on the current therapies on the market, but you can extend the blame to other things if you can go beyond just one thing. Everything is a factor, yes, but simply not getting a public health therapy doesn't get you out of the woods. You literally have to stop treating disease if you want to save yourself and survive climate change. Okay? You literally have to redefine your relationship with food, air, and water. You literally have to redefine your relationship with the symptoms. If you can't redefine your relationship with the world you live in and energy emanating from your immune system, it won't matter what you do or not do. You can't handle life and change. You cannot handle evolution. That's the bottom line. And so why do you think doctors and midwives help women deliver babies? Because the strain is very hard on the body. Pushing out foreign enemies out of your body is extremely hard on the body. You need all food to condition for climate change and the hidden hand. You need to help your body deliver the evil from it. Okay, that's pulling out the crap out of your body, especially when your body's in resistance because it was trained to be in resistance to releasing demons. What's the evil? It's the demons. Every bit of waste material that comes out from all the different orifices and pores, you push that evil back in, it will turn into something working against you. You starve the evil in your body, it will work against you and eat you. Giving birth to yourself means releasing the demons, and it's a messy, fucked up job to do, but it's survival. You have to be conditioned to deliver yourself from evil. Now you know why doctors and nurses and all the different health professionals must have licenses. They are the human exorcists handling excrement. That's what they do. They see what happens when you have too much excrement in the body, and they go and try to play experiment and culture with your excrement. That's why they do fecal samples. That's why the nurses, the CNAs have to go and pull out the shit out of people's bodies because they don't have an immune system to push it out. So they have to use instruments and enemas and the digital method from somebody else. Shit, I do things on my own. I don't want any stranger putting their hands in me or on me or whatever. Heck no. And so they are the human exorcists handling excrement. Good and evil is in the excrement. And you can't be the one to target what is good or evil because you don't know. Your immune system knows if it's supported properly. But when you disable your immune system, you host demons and then you destroy yourself. And that's what's going on. People disable their immune system, hosting demons within while destroying themselves. And so this is a quote from the Diet Suddenly group. I guess it's my turn. A family member took 3 public health therapies in 2021, got a brain tumor in 2022, had surgery to remove it, living with pain in legs and is always extremely tired. 1 month ago, could not do bowel movements. Been taking store-bought meds that aren't helping, so they're probably taking LAX, ATIVES. You can't force your body to do something it was not conditioned to do. That's the raping of the body, mind, and spirit. Today we rushed to the hospital, is profusely sweating, cold and clammy. CAT scan and blood work does not show anything. Is admitted in hospital. Doctors said they do not know what's wrong. So very afraid of the outcome. Update, diagnosis is a heart attack. I found out later there was a chest pain and heart rate is out at 170 when it was in the emergency room. Tests done were on gallbladder and MRI. Don't know results yet. If this person survives and if this person doesn't change the way they do stuff, and if this person gets treated and told to stay away from certain foods, the next time this person won't survive, this person even survives this. And this is everywhere. That's Dante's Inferno. That's being corked up at the asshole, and then people balloon out. And people don't know how to change. They want to change, but they can't. They're too entrenched. So we survived by the skin of our teeth. Was Jeffrey Epstein an intelligence asset? Change agents? I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. Fraud, the Titanic conspiracy? Yeah, potentially. What is it? Insurance fraud? Switching one ship for another. I found this article, The Chilling Phenomenon of Coffin Burst When a Fetus is Ejected from a Pregnant Corpse. Now, the person probably wasn't dead, but I don't know. They're probably in a coma. That was speculation. But when the body ejects a baby from a dead body, it means that, either the person was in a coma or the gases from the death ejected the baby, but was the baby actually born alive or dead? So, and that's the same thing when a cell is trying to evolve. It ejects the old world, or tries to eject the crap of the old world, trying to evolve to the new world, and people resist that phenomenon. And so that's why they're so full of an opposing force that takes over and then causes heart attacks and strokes. And so I said, when you're using supplements, when you're using medication, when you're getting surgeries, when you're using drugs, herbal remedies, vaccines, even imbibing spirits, alcohol, or liquor, you are forcing the body to do something against its will. The rape of your body, mind, and spirit through the medical, holistic energy healing world. Even the massage therapist. Okay? All therapies are the rape of the body, mind, and spirit. Therapy equals the rapee. Your body will rebel against you when you continue to keep raping it of its resources. When you keep forcing it to do things it was not conditioned to do. That's why people die suddenly. They were not conditioned for climate change. They kept forcing their body to do things against its will until it finally gave out from exhaustion. People are so disrespectful to their body, and then they have the gall to blame somebody else. And they keep selling their friends and family things to force the body to open and close, passing on the RAPE of the body, mind, and spirit. Immortality is conditioning to live. When you carve out, suck out, or force something in the body, or force an organ to do something against its will, you won't have what it takes when the climate changes. The rape of the body, mind, and spirit is through the medical, holistic, energy healing therapy world. You are essentially forcing the body to do something against its will, taking alchemy and scalpels, and then starvation to boot. Just think of a human as one large cell when it goes through senescence, and it triggers sexual reproduction, and new life is formed that will destroy the prior life if given the opportunity. That's called a programmed cell death, apoptosis, or parenthood. And they are one and the same. They are interchangeable. Apoptosis, or programmed cell death, it is a process that involves cells committing suicide by activating a death program. It's a vital process that involves distinct morphological changes and energy-dependent biochemical mechanisms. Granted, it is slower if a person is relatively healthy and can raise that new life, such as parenthood, right? Some people have so many programmed cell deaths that they actually do commit actual suicide. At the micro level, when cells must evolve, it has to shed the old programming so it can develop the new programming. Things get purged out. The goal is to survive the Great Purge, and we're in it right now, just so you know. That's all the died suddenlies. Which is why people die from blood clots, because they hold a lot of the offspring that aren't fully developed in their colon and lymphatic system. That's all the calamari, the blood clots that the embalmers are pulling out of the blood vessels. Because of climate change, people are holding all that crap in. The goal is to survive the Great Purge. Not everybody does, because they were not conditioned to retain or release the literal organic way. They had everything carved out, sucked out, or forced out through medicines. Even the massage therapists are forcing the body to do things against its will. Anyone doing anything to you is doing things against you, even if you give permission. But everything is contractual, right? Your bodies are in contract with different people, places, and things. There is an offer, there is consideration, and then there's acceptance. And when you sign on the dotted line or you give money for a therapy, you're accepting the outcome. When you are taking oncology, when taking pills, power supplements, you are accepting the outcome. Sometimes that outcome has died suddenly. Just make sure that contractual agreement serves you and benefits you more than it doesn't. When people die, they sold their soul, and they did things against themselves more than for themselves. And they couldn't handle the energy conversion because they didn't take into account they were in a different climate, and they kept resisting evolution. That's the issue with all the died suddenlies and even death, even before climate change and before the pandemic, before all this. And so using lasers to create rain, control the weather, oh, absolutely. I even Googled that, and then I found this on Anthony Haywood's page. You should follow him. He has interesting stuff. The system will carve out the smart cities through weather and lasers. You can't resist or stop it. Just be prepared to lose everything and rebuild somewhere if you have to. assuming you prepare and survive climate change, assuming you get down to the basement or somewhere safe in time, assuming you don't put yourself in harm's way. And so a radical experiment shows cloud brightening may be our climate white night. Okay? And so, which is why I stay home and stay safe more than not, so I don't have to burn my retinas, and wearing sunglasses is paramount. Now I have to figure out my lighting, but okay. But I pretty much, I stay mostly in the dark in my bedroom, or I go downstairs where everything is mostly even, so I get that exposure and conditioning for light. And then I go outside occasionally, but I should, if I go out for long periods of time, especially going boating with my husband, I should wear sunglasses. Okay? So which is why I stay home more than not. I don't have to burn my retinas, and wearing sunglasses is paramount. The all-seeing eye, when light is so strong, it burns through your retinas. Phototoxicity is a thing, but since people don't have a pain receptors behind their retinas, they don't know the damage they're doing until later on. And I'm sure even my computer screen might also do damage. So I have to look at a lot of things. And I'll tell you, man, trying to figure out how to keep your eyes safe, but also not get such, everything has to be factored in. And there's things you can do with your screen to lower the light, but again, it's just like, fuck. Can you come back from whatever damage you've done just through your daily life? And that's the thing. And so phototoxicity is a thing, but since people don't have pain receptors behind their retinas, they don't know the damage they're doing until later on. And so much light can also cause immunological disturbances. I learned that during the eclipse. That's why IFL Science said, don't be caught out there. They knew, but you can't tell people anything. They will just call you a conspiracy theorist and dismiss you. They'll read an article and only believe that perspective of the article, which is true relative to your perspective, but there's also another storyline. I get dismissed for so many reasons anyways, not just for being an unapologetic conspiracy theorist. People think I'm entertainment. But I always knew there was another storyline. I didn't always take everything for face value. Sometimes there are other footnotes. There are footnotes you have to read. If you do not read the footnotes, you lose most of the story. And what are footnotes? When you're reading a book like War and Peace or Dante's Inferno or Purgatory or whatever, and there's little citation things, and then you have to go down to the bottom and read that, and that gives you then another storyline to then support that storyline. So there's a lot of stories within stories that are embedded, and that's reading. That's some major reading. And so, which is why those who don't have education behind them don't fucking understand a damn thing, and they'll dismiss you, call you a liar, say you're a monster, and feel sorry for you because you had a bad childhood, and on and on and on. Even the educated ones forgot their education. They lost their ability to critically think, lost in hormones, family, pleasure, and paradise. Until one day, people get rude awakenings, but they were warned. Well, that day is here. What's a footnote? So many books hold footnotes because there's always storylines embedded into storylines. And you have to be focused enough to understand how those storylines intersect with the main story. One can't just be so biased and one-sided that you lose perspective. And that's most of the people out there, is that they are so biased, so one-sided, and they don't have the education of reading and understanding footnotes and understanding other storylines that intersect with other ones, that then they become so jaded and then are on the attack and predatory. And so footnotes are small notations at the bottom of the page that provide additional information or cite the source of a passage in the page's text. A footnote is marked in the page text by a superscript icon, usually an asterisk or number, which corresponds to the matching footnote at the bottom of the page. Okay? And so I read that. Okay. And then I had to learn, in order to develop an argument against the rape of the immune system via the VACCINE industry, that all therapies in the medical holistic energy healing world must come into question. Okay? So if you question one therapy, all therapies must be held to the same standards. Even therapy, every therapy is vector therapy. Someone or something forcing, hold on a second. All right. Is that better? Probably. Okay. Every therapy is vector therapy. Someone or something is forcing themselves into you regardless of permission. And there is a very specific expectation of hormonal response that is programmed within that therapy. Technically, everything you do to take something as a therapy to modify your hormones and behaviors and feelings is the rape of your body, mind, and spirit. So if you see a doctor or a naturopathic on supplements and herbal remedies and cannabis, your arguments against the vaccine industry will be very shaky. But if you do win, it won't matter anyways. The people who take vaccines never had it in them to survive climate change. So the system just threw money at the problem to appease the people. It was never about life, it was about money. What's the point of winning money if you can't survive your environment? I don't care about making lawyers rich. I don't care. Fine, get rich. Go for it. If you have an argument against the vaccine industry, I hope my arguments can help you. Because at this point, it doesn't matter. People who have to take a therapy will have an issue with climate change regardless. Okay, so here's an argument. If there's climate change, this has been telling us there's climate change and it causes particle acceleration, and you're seeing that people are getting cytokine storms in their body, right? Then taking a therapy that will also activate the immune system might be a little bit aggressive on top of already the change in environment. And so if you can provide a scientific argument as a lawyer against those that are promoting these things to people who already have compromised immune systems, but you have to come from science, then you might win some money. Okay, fine. If you have that kind of research and you can articulate that side of it. Okay? And so you'd have to show and prove how these injectors have activated people's situations more than if they would have not gotten it. And I don't know how you would prove that's what has caused this person's situation. But once they get a vector and they go out there, if they didn't get one, would they have died in a situation that was already influenced by climate change, a storm, or a crowd of people? That's going to be very difficult to prove. But you can still present the argument. I just don't know how you would say that if they didn't get a vector, they wouldn't have had that situation, because the deed's already done. They got a vector. Here it is. But if you already know that if you can admit that climate change is here, climate change is happening, and it's causing things to be accelerated in the therapies industry, maybe you might have a case. But I don't know. It just depends on what kind of lawyers. But then if they say, okay, well, here you go, we'll do a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, and here you'll win millions of dollars. People are like, oh yeah, I won $1 billion. And they haven't changed the way they do stuff, and they have $1 billion. And when they give someone a bunch of money, what do? They travel. They buy all their baubles. They do a bunch of stuff, and they're out there, and then they die from climate change. So it's not going to matter. You throw money at somebody, if they don't have what it takes to handle that kind of windfall, where's that money going? Next of kin, they're going to go and blow it on stupid shit because they're not going to change. So money doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to fucking use it. Okay, people that win millions of dollars and they go blow it on trips and quips and whatever else, and then they die suddenly because they can't handle that lifestyle. When you give King Midas so much money, he surrounds himself with so much money, he can't eat it. He can't survive his lifestyle from it. And it's still climate change. It hasn't changed. The climate has not changed. It will keep changing. People don't survive pleasure and paradise and so much energy. They don't survive free energy. They can't survive the environment. They're taking therapies for it. They're starving themselves. And then they get a bunch of money too on top of that. They're done. It's really strategic what the system is doing. And you can't fault them for it. They figured out every fucking angle. Because people are greedy. People who have to take any therapy regardless will have an issue with climate change regardless. And so will their kids. Kids like, oh look, I'm so rich. My parents won a bunch of money from the VACCINE their lawsuit. So they go to college or out there gallivanting in the sun and getting their retinas, burned away, and they have heart issues and lung issues, and then they die suddenly. So where does that money go? To the next of kin until they all burn through that money and they all die, and then where does it go? To the government. So in physics, a vector is a quantity that has both magnitude and direction, such as velocity, force, and displacement. Vectors are often represented by arrows that start at one point on a coordinate axis and end at another, with the length of the arrow being proportional to the quantity's magnitude and direction of the arrow being the same as the quantity's direction. Examples of vectors in nature include momentum, force, electromagnetic fields, and weight, mosquitoes. And I put even examples. Somebody using their hand as a vector to take the supplements and the drugs. The obelisk, which is all over the world. Okay, that's Rosicrucian. Scalpels, vaccine injectors, people drinking liquor and drugs and whatever, smoking their pot and cigarettes. Those are all vectors, okay? You're forcing something in your body, and it's causing a hormonal response. And so then you have the starvation artists. So if you're not raping their body, they're starving it. Those are all the people who are political about food or think food is poison or can't handle the pain of life and food. The system made you all or nothing, and then they programmed you to destroy yourself and call it healing. And so when people have raped their body and forced their body to close up or using the latest remedies, then they start gaining so much weight. They deny themselves food or run themselves to death, and then their blood vessels and vital organs are so weak they don't survive climate change. But hey, they feel great, right? They feel on top of the world. Starvation does that, you know? Starvation makes you feel good until it doesn't anymore. And so vaccine breakthrough could mean future-proof shots with no need for boosters. Okay. Oh, joy. Remember, you always have a choice. But if you take a vaccine, chances are you have an issue with the environment, so it won't matter what you do. But if getting a therapy gives you peace of mind, who am I to get in the way of your peace of mind? It's not my call to make whether you should get one or not get one. But if your friends and family die suddenly, you can blame whatever you want, but you didn't have it in you if you have to take a therapy. If you have to take a holistic therapy, you didn't have it in you to survive the environment. If you have food allergies, if you have diagnosable conditions, and people die suddenly, they didn't have it within them to survive the environment. They were not equipped for climate change. So don't even blame the people who are not vaccinated or people who are vaccinated. If you can't survive your environment, it's because of your practices and developing a case for a future died suddenly. And then all those remedies not only thinned your blood, but forced your body to do things against its will. Choose your own adventure, but don't blame anyone for the choices you make. And so, by the way, your friends and families and pets and animals you surround yourself with are also vectors. Force equals matter times acceleration. The laws of motion dictate that your friends and family inject themselves into your world and attempt to take over. So even the people you hang out with are like vectors. Your husbands and wives and children are like vectors. Your pets too. And it will be a fight to the death. Even the diverse crowds you inject yourself into when it comes to concerts and movies and fairs. During particle acceleration, people's spirits are extremely influential. And that's why the turbo cancer. So all the ectoplasm that you're inhaling in a crowded room, a hot crowded room. It's a type of alien possession. Then people are forced to get RAPE'd by the medical holistic energy healing world because they have to carve out the opposing spirits out of their bodies. Sometimes they give birth to an alien possession. That's the cesarean section. Unless they can purge that baby out naturally, and it's painful. Some women don't survive childbirth. And so the equation force equals matter times acceleration is Newton's second law of motion. This means that the force acting on an object is equal to the object's mass times its acceleration. This means that the more mass an object has, the more force you need to accelerate it. It also means the greater the force, the greater the object's acceleration. And so those who are smaller have to be more strategic against those who are larger with more force. That's David and Goliath, okay? And those who are smaller have to be more strategic against those who are larger with more force. The revenge of the nerds against the brutal barbarians of our society, like the football players. Men and women who throw their weight around fail to use their brain to strategically survive in our society because they've always forced themselves onto other people or try to go and kick somebody's ass. That's not going to cut it anymore. Violence and throwing your weight around because you want to take over somebody or intimidate someone, that's not going to cut it anymore. Yes, the scientists do rule the world, not the beefy weightlifters who deflate over time. Yeah, the sports stars, the Olympians, the footballers are dying suddenly on the field. That should be a clue. And so if you're using your strength and your weight to intimidate others, that's raping somebody's body, mind, and spirit, using your brawn to intimidate somebody else. And so, yes, I know the system is raping Mother Earth with all the lasers. And so how is that any different than raping the Earth for oil? Probably less messy. I couldn't say less invasive because developing earthquakes and continents to split might be a little invasive. But injecting the atmosphere with salt to cause rain and cloud seeding and even cloud brightening, well, it's only harm to those who don't take cover of darkness and stay inside. Well, right? I said, well, pardon the pun, a well is a deep hole or shaft dug into the ground, raping the earth, to access natural resources. Wells can be used to access water, oil, gas, or brine. It's not your call to make. You were invited into this world. You weren't entitled to this world. So if you have an issue with the lasers, it's not your world to dictate. You were invited here. You're not entitled to anything. I'm not entitled to anything. Okay? So you have to survive it. Engineering is all about force. It's about energy conversion. You can engineer yourself and assimilate to the engineering out there. If you don't like the world you live in, you can depopulate yourself, but not others. No one is forcing anyone to be here. Okay? And that's pretty much the short of the long of it, the long of the short of it. So if you have an issue, with what's going on, take your drugs, take your alcohol, go do whatever, go get your operations. But you are not entitled to this world. You are invited to this world. And if you can't assimilate, then the system will allow you to depopulate yourself. But the system will not allow you to destroy others because you have an issue with change. And so, yeah. So that's kind of the situation we're in, is that we were in a world where it was okay to inject yourself into other people's business. It was okay to inject yourself with so many other things. And it was fine because they were doing cultures and experiments and studying people and doing all this stuff. But now the studies are done, the experiments are done. Now the environment is causing people to separate. And what used to be working for you with all your numbers and your families, your friends and everything is going to work against you. And so now you have to figure out that if you're going to inject yourself with whatever, and if you're going to be injected with whatever, you're going to have to deal with how are you going to manage that life that you've been exposed to in body, mind, and spirit. And so everyone will make their choices. Some people are not even aware, oblivious, and that's fine. They'll succumb to the environment and to all the different therapies that they're exposed to. But now it's time to understand what actual RAPE is. And people do that in the medical holistic energy healing world. And their animals and them and everything are in competition, a fight to the death. And some people outlive their animals, other people's animals outlive them. And so you'll have to figure out how much your life is worth. The system already knows what your worth is. Do you know what your worth is? All right, bye.